So this whole thing is useless. No, you should never use this. It doesn't make any sense within this game. Inside miniatures, beyond good. I mean, fantastic. Top tier. It doesn't always match the components. It doesn't always make sense. And it really, really sucks. Get down. Can target alien models even if a hero is obscuring or obstructing line of sight. So, I don't know. You pick. Hey guys, and welcome to my review of Chronicle X. This is one of my most anticipated games by Awakened Realms, but is it any good? Let's find out. Okay, so the first thing you're going to notice is the box. This is going to be your first experience with it. Now, sadly, the shipping from the Archon Studio isn't quite as good as pretty much all of the other games that I have at least gotten on Kickstarter. So I got this nice dent. Now they're going to replace it, but just as an FYI, don't expect like a really thick box and anything nice there. Because what's nice is actually on the inside. So on the inside, you get, look at that, foam trays. All Archon products do this. I always do this foam tray for the miniatures with the image in the back in color behind it so that you get it on both. So come on, you can see here's an alternative to one of your products. Here's another board game, a competitor doing better than you when it comes to the storage. It's a little unfair because this is better than pretty much any company that's going to do storage, but it goes to show you what is out there. So all the miniatures have a, custom cut foam tray and, place for everything. And then again, they have the images on the back. Now, one of the nice things about foam is, let's say that you double sleeved your cards or did something or whatever anyway, and you need this bigger. Well, you can just cut it. You can cut this same as anything else, and then you can make custom room. If you want these to be a little bit looser, you can do that. You can do whatever you want. That's what's kind of nice about that. Now, speaking of this, just looking at the miniatures real quick, I really like the fact that these are all of like your main guys, and each one of these is a unique sculpt. So you get a ton of these, but each one, again, is a unique sculpt. I mean, and they're really, really good quality. So you got these throwaway minis, you got like kind of the big baddie here. And again, the quality is just amazing. They use this kind of unicast resin print on all their stuff, and it looks really good. And they get all sorts of detail in here. So the first thing you're going to notice, obviously, is the miniatures, and they are great. So box outside, not so great. Inside, storage good. And then inside, miniatures, beyond good. I mean, fantastic. Top tier. These are exceptional miniatures. So here, let me just show you maybe one. If it'll focus here. There you go. So you can kind of see the detail level we're talking about here. Really, really, really good stuff. Fantastic. They paint up well. I got a few painted. I actually painted these a long time ago. Link in the description below if you want to see that. But excuse the camera work. I've hopefully improved somewhat over that time. But they paint up really well. They all have custom bases. They all look really good. The heroes in particular, again, when you have the base, you can give them in really cool kind of poses and have them do all sorts of neat stuff that just end up looking really, really nice. If you compare this to like a Zombicide Invader, hands down, 1,000% better. These are just better in pretty much every way. They are fantastic looking, much better than, again, the competition will give you. Now, it's not all necessarily perfect. So they've repurposed some of these miniatures, and when doing so, you get something like this. So this is a VIP token, and I think he's hilarious. Right? I think he's really, really funny. That's great. The problem is, he's the wrong scale. So here is a normal human, and here is this guy. And as you can see, he is much smaller. It just, I mean, his face is half the size. He's just the wrong scale. He doesn't match the rest of the box. So that's kind of the one bummer I noticed there, was that the scale was imperfect for that one miniature. Everything else looks like it is good. Okay, so we got the box, we got the storage, we got the miniatures. Let's talk about some of the component quality. So right off the bat, I just want to say that this is a cool concept. So this is kind of your tray, and you can spin it and change the values, right? And so his health, melee, and defense go down. Some of the issues with this are just some of the weird printing. So if you see this, first of all, this red text on this black, the red's kind of hard to see. you'll notice that both of their health, defense, and melee change. Okay? But the defense and melee have swapped. This is defense, this is melee, this is melee, this is defense. There's no real reason for that. Move is the same, shoot is the same. They just swapped places here, like they weren't consistent. I don't know why, but that's kind of dumb. And then additionally, I mean, I like that some of them change different ones. So in this one, he gets worse at shooting. And now this is the issue here. Do you see that? I'm trying to go, and for whatever reason, oh, there he goes. Now it's going again. And a lot of times these will mess up. So you'll get them stuck, or just one will spin and not the other. They'll overlap. So a lot of times they'll come up just a little bit like that, and now suddenly you're off. So when you go to the all orange, oh, see, I can't even look at that. See, now the orange is all messed up because one overlapped. They just aren't very smooth. Now, I point that out mainly because there are, again, alternatives. So here's a fun one. This is actually from Aeon Trespass Odyssey. It's live on Kickstarter. Link in the description below to a few of my videos covering it, including a review and, of course, the Kickstarter itself. They have the tri-skilling system, which also has spin die. Now, this is a prototype. This is not even the finished product. And you can tell how much thicker it is. You can tell it has these really nice different hooks in here that spin incredibly well. I mean, this is fantastic. You can spin it while it's on the ground. You got a little part here where you can spin it. You're not touching this very skinny little piece here. And really, the cardboard components here, I think, are the worst part of the whole Archon experience. They just do not print it very thick or very hard. So you'll notice here, this is not double layered, and this is actually stuck with some poster tack. Because when it's not, it's just sliding around everywhere. Not only that, these also poster tag. This is how we're playing it, because these Neon Rush tokens, which are great, they allow you to reroll, fantastic, and I like that you kind of recover them outside of combat. So cool game mechanic, but again, they would just slide around everywhere. They're on these like little kind of warpy things here. They're not going to stay put here. They're going to move around everywhere. You don't even have a place to mark everything. So when they level up, there's not really a good way to show, if they're level 1 or level 2, besides the XP gauge and judging off that, but that's not, a super great way to do it, in my opinion. Just the tokens in general are just really skinny and really, see, I'm trying to pick it up right now. So here's a little spanner token. You can kind of see the thickness here. Again, just really, really skinny and kind of fiddly, and they need to be thicker. It just kind of sucks to the point where, again, I'm going to get this replaced, but here's one of the tokens. After the first play, the first time I ever used this token, it actually split into two. I've glued it back together as best I can. You can see the two halves are not on there perfectly. It just wore off, so I'm going to have to get that replaced. And actually, if you notice, even these that I haven't had to glue yet are starting to get separated a little bit. So you can kind of see the white there where they're shifting a little bit. So I'm worried even more are going to peel apart into two pieces. Really bad cardboard quality. It's just not good. They need better spinners that don't clump up. They need, actual places to store things that don't just slide around. They need thicker tokens. That's just kind of a mess. The player boards are pretty good. They're thick enough. There's some slight warp, but nothing crazy. Where it's not even really noticeable when you're like looking at the board. So that's okay. All right, next up, you're going to have the rule books. This is going to be your next kind of experience with the game. And when you're reading it, it's pretty good. There's a few fit and finish things, stuff like, spacing here where tokens and period and then the are all one thing. There's no spacing there. A couple oddities and wording. You'll find that even on like the front page where it really, it's just, you can tell it's been translated and it kind of reads a little odd. But for the most part, it's pretty good, I guess, because it has an index. So +1 for the index. That is a positive. I like seeing this. Another thing I liked about kind of the game in general is actually the humor. So you see little terrible dad jokes and, just oddities and memes and cult references and stuff like that. Let me find a few of those here. So you have like stall your base or belong to us, and, home invasion and, some Metal Gear Solid stuff here. So you got, just cool stuff like that, I really appreciate the humor. What I don't appreciate, and where this kind of falters and in the end it becomes something not great in spite of the index, is just, it leaves way too many questions. So first of all, one of the issues is this game was changed a lot. And because of that, for instance, you have these blip tokens. I kind of showed you some of those, right? These blip tokens that you have where they don't know who's who. But then you come into the rulebook and you see here, reveal all ping tokens and kill at least one of every type of alien in play. The ping means blip. They just call it differently here than they do over there. So the wording changes depending on what you're reading. That kind of stuff is kind of bad. But it kind of gets a little worse than that. So I'm going to go ahead and move to the map and explain a little bit there. Okay, so here we are on kind of the map that you will typically play. There's a flip side to all of these tiles that's on the mothership, and it's also quite good, and I like that there's a difference there. While the art assets are reused a lot, and so you don't really see a lot of the, you don't feel like you're in a different city each time per se, because it's all the same. They're not really themed that way. The layout changes sufficiently to where it produces its own kind of situations, which are good whether you're near this or a highly defensive place or whatever, and what your objective is. So on this, there is still some issues. So one of the main things on here that I find is actually, let me get rid of this token here, is this sort of stuff here. So you're going to see that, let me actually put it this way. They reused, obviously, a digital asset. So this car and this car are the exact same car. The only difference is this is a shaded blue, so just disregard that, and this is green. But is they turned it and they shrunk it. Now the shrinking is, I think, a big issue here, because this is, I mean, the people are way too big for this car. This car, semi-believable, maybe. This car, not at all, not even close. It's not even a clown car. So the resizing and reuse of assets can be kind of a bummer. But generally speaking, you're going to be going around and you're going to be going into buildings. And the moment you go into a building, you take this card and then you draw, your building card and you find a secret passage or something like that. These are really fun, by the way. I really enjoy the mechanics here. You just get a lot of XCOM kind of feels to it with the, whether you're at risk for being attacked easier or whether you're being defensive on a green spot, in which case, which direction, or whether you're close to a hazard that could blow up, you can shoot the car and it blows up perhaps, or there was a trap inside and whatnot. I really enjoy a lot of those things. You can come in here and loot and get the spanner token, and then you get to draw an item and you get an item, and it's, oh look, you got a chaos cannon. That's really cool and stuff like that. When you get these items, you get to trade them in for resources and do all that kind of stuff. I'll explain a little bit more on the headquarters in a bit here. But in general, you're kind of moving around with your character, and you can go into Overwatch, just like, again, the video games. And so he actually gets a free Overwatch. And then, when people go, the blip gets into position, you flip it, and that was a drone or a dud, so that doesn't count. But if he was there, then, look, it was this guy, so you replace him with the miniature, and then he can gum up and attack him or whatever. So a lot of really cool stuff there. I really like that. The combat is actually kind of interesting, because when you get to a certain level, once you're above rolling these die, you can actually essentially manipulate them based off of a higher value. So you can get a higher value, but instead of adding die, it increases your likelihood of getting hits, which I actually really like. One of the things I don't like about the dice is how swingy it is. And so I don't know if it's the layout of the dice. I've been kind of looking at this a little bit. So the attacks are pretty much in a spin, right? So there's this kind of where they're all kind of together. And then, of course, you have the 2 blanks. So there are 2 blanks on the die. There are no other die. These are the die you get. And then you have the shields all here and a lump here, and then a shield not even actually opposite so much as, I guess it's kind of opposite, but either way you get the double shield there, and then the 1 critical. So with the 2 blanks, and then the kind of spin die here, depending on how you roll die, if you're the kind of person that rolls them typically in the same way, whether, it's like that or whatever, if it starts here, it's going to keep spinning and you're going to be on attacks. Or if you're here, then it's kind of a little bit more random, though again, you have more defense. I don't know. It just seemed really swingy to me, where you could do absolutely no damage to absolutely obliterating somebody just depending on how you roll. And so I didn't really care for that. Yes, you can re-roll, at least as the heroes, the aliens, not so much. But I didn't like the dice in this game when it came to rolling it. It could be better, is really, I guess, what I'm trying to say here. So again, all the heroes actually act really cool together. They're all different, so she can actually have essentially a boombox that makes people move, so you can, buff your enemies around, or he's got this sniper ability and he can be really far away, or this guy's like deadly up close or whatever. You just have all these characters that, I guess are different. She can heal people, and he's like this like melee Street Fighter dude that can run towards people. And then of course you have like the big shooty tank guy. So they all kind of act differently. So you might want to have him where he has good line of sight, and you might want to have her near your other people so she can make them move for free. All that kind of stuff is actually quite good. An issue with the blip tokens, before I move on, is this blip token right here. So core box wise, you actually get a ton of content. So in this box, you're going to get a 5 scenario campaign, but it branches, which is really good. So you can play, A through F, depending on what it is. You're more or less experiencing the same story, but the circumstances around why you're doing it and the map you're on change depending on what happens, whether somebody wins or loses the other match. It's not as much as like, it's just kind of the one or the other. You either won or you lost, and that decides the next one. It's not a thing where it's like, well, if you won, but you were able to save 3 of these people, then it's this. And if you saved all the people, but lost, or whatever, it's none of that. But I do like the branching, campaign. Additionally, you get kind of the skirmish mode. And this is your typical XCOM stuff where you're trying to get resources and target locations and all that kind of stuff here. So you get a lot of actual game content here. You can play this game for quite a bit, and I think it'll keep its stay. Part of that has to do with the alien upgrades, and then part of it has to do with just kind of the overall quantity you get. So in the alien upgrades, I'll show you the track here real quick. Again, everything's skinny and slides around, so you're just going to have to deal with that. But essentially, let's just get rid of that. You can upgrade depending on how many of these abduction points you get, or missions that you win. You can upgrade these things, and they kind of fundamentally change things. So at first, they're all more or less the same. These Dominators are cool because they can do psychic attacks where they don't need line of sight, so they can attack through walls. But eventually, you can upgrade them to where they can, where is it? Right here. So they can actually move through walls. So eventually they're just phasing through everything, and they can escape without being attacked, and they're even more defensive, so that you can just move them around and do all that kind of stuff. Or you can upgrade your stealth so your blip tokens are moving around really well. Or you can, get your Devoli Ridgewalker, which are these awesome guys, to just be a crazy, fast-moving melee juggernaut. And so you can make your gray units either super big in attack or super good in defense. So maybe they have more moves, or maybe they're glass cannons that can just shoot. So you get kind of a different flavor depending on how you even upgrade the aliens. The heroes upgrade kind of normal. They upgrade pretty well. Now, the problem is, and the one thing I do kind of have an issue with core box mechanics is this. So this is obviously the Overlord. This is obviously the Overmind. This is the big baddie. There's no question about it, because it's the only one of this size. Until we get the Kickstarter expansions and all that kind of good stuff, you're stuck with just one of these. Now, if you have multiple, they still don't know what you fielded. But if you have this on the map, they know exactly what this enemy is. So I would have actually preferred this to almost be either a regular size, or for them to have included one other large enemy, just so you weren't quite sure of what you'd be facing around the corner next, because they can see these move around, and it's kind of like the fog of war kind of thing, and then it pops up, and then, you don't know what it did. Now, when they do pop up, they actually have a behavior, which is really, really good. Let me show that real quick to you. So, you know what? I'll actually show you on the card. So on the cards, you'll see this behavior here. And this behavior tells you what they do, whether they, screech, or the Devoli Ridgewalker can just rush you. And so the moment he pops up, he attacks. Or maybe the Greys will take cover and kind of hide. Or maybe you'll have a few options on what they do. Just kind of really cool as you discover the Greys and they scurry off somewhere. Again, that's also really, really fun. Now, not everything about the objectives and all the content is necessarily perfect. Again, there's these kind of just this is lacking rules that you'll get. So, like, one of the issues is, like, let's say this. If you get this as aliens, you're handed an agenda and you're trying to do it. It says destroy 3 it says destroy 3 extraction points. Destroy 5 extraction points. Now, we are assuming the extraction points are these yellow squares. However, sometimes it'll specify a specific point to extract a VIP, in which case, is there only one? Can you destroy others? I don't know. Additionally, it doesn't say how to destroy them. Nowhere in the rulebook does it say how to destroy these. The only thing it mentions are these hazards and how you can shoot them for 2 damage. Can you shoot this square for 2 damage? I don't know. It doesn't say. Even when you go to loot these spanner tokens, do you have to be on it or adjacent to it? An example shows them where it seems like it's adjacent, but it's not very clear there. That can be confusing. Additionally, this right here, where there's a door here and a wall here, it doesn't ever really mention this very well, at least not in the English translation. So can you move through this or not? It does mention multiple buildings connected, but I have actually never found a situation where 2 doors line up when shifted around and trying to kind of make these buildings connect. I've yet to see one where, if I turn this, it'd be up here, and they don't line up. And so either this is now a door, I mean, sure, whatever, or it's not, and you can't ever actually, as far as I can tell, actually do that with the components that you have. So that doesn't match either. So there's a lot of oddities around that on just obscure rules and what works and what doesn't, how you do stuff. I said I'd mention this again, and so I'm going to clear these minis up real quick here and talk just briefly about kind of the warehouse. Now, one of the nice things about this is I mentioned how you have an A side and a B side. Again, I'm going to get tokens everywhere. So you have 2 different sides that form a map. You eventually go up to the mothership, and I really like the flow. Right when you're starting to get kind of maybe tired of this, you can go to the mothership, and then again, you're doing different missions up there, and that's a lot of fun. However, with a lot of this, you're also going to be going through your kind of headquarters, your base of operations, and expanding it. And a lot of these are really, really great, and I really enjoy this. Another good thing is you eventually lose access to this. And when I played, we didn't know you lost access. And so we were, just going, and then suddenly, you can't go back there, and you kind of realize, what you missed and what you should have done. You appreciate it a little bit more when you actually lose access to it. So you'll be building these based off of the resources that you get, and you get, again, the resources by trading in different items to get your resources. That's how you're going to get them. They're just the opposite of these tokens here. So there's one of the resources. That being said, again, these translation issues come up, and I don't think it's necessarily a translation issue, as the game has been shifted so much, but not all the components were updated, or it was considered as a core box plus all the Kickstarters, but we only got the core box, so we're missing some things. But right here, you'll see the soda bar right here, and it'll say, heroes now recover 1 neon rush each between missions. Great. Then you're going to get this, the armory. Heroes now recover 1 bullet each between missions. Except there are no bullets. In this version of the game, as far as I know, there are no bullets. It never mentions bullets in anywhere else. It doesn't make any sense. I don't know what these bullets are. Nobody does. We've been discussing on Board Game Geek. I'm assuming it is either an old version of the game or an expansion somewhere that we don't have. So this whole thing is useless. No, you should never use this. It doesn't make any sense within this game. Additionally, some of the setup rules, again, you can tell were maybe shifted in between. So if I'm going to come back here, and I apologize for keep coming back here, but I think it's important to kind of drive this home about how flawed this game can be. This is a fun one, mainly because it was kind of difficult to really figure out. So here it does show 2 different hero deployments and 2 different alien deployments. That's great. Now, I'm going to read a little bit of this and then ask a question. So this says, reducing the Overmind's health to half will send him fleeing to his secret quarters. Fight your way to the Terraforge and destroy it before it can be fully activated. Terraforge stats, HP 10, defense 2. Each room will have a computer terminal to destroy. Once these terminals have been destroyed, the terminal at the bottom of the map may be attacked. Destroying the final terminal will end the mission. Computer terminal stats, HP 5, defense 2. Then it circles these 3 here. I'm assuming that it says each room, I'm assuming this is a room, will have a computer terminal to destroy. So a room here with a terminal and a room here with a terminal. Once those are destroyed, then at the bottom of the map, that terminal can be attacked. So there's that other one. Now, question 1. How do you get to these rooms? Now, there is a colored light here. These kind of portals. That might work, except it doesn't mention anything here. If you look at 4B, however, it says right here, use a color corresponding teleportation paths to teleport to the hidden rooms. A model must use one interact action to do so. That model is then moved between the corresponding colored teleportation symbols. So 4B, they have this little blurb to teleport. 4A, they don't tell you that you need to use an interact action. They don't tell you that you can actually get there that way. So, well, I'll get to what I think happened. Now here it says reducing Overmind's health to half will send him fleeing to his secret quarters. Then nowhere else does it mention that I have to use the Overmind. It doesn't say whether the alien player needs to even use the Overmind. And if so, I guess, does that mean that the Overmind then runs away to half? And so you just have to do him half? I don't know. Now, you'll notice these are in the same spot. I almost wonder if this was supposed to be here, but there was a copy-paste error here, where it was supposed to tell you about the teleporters here, and instead they accidentally had the Overmind in their clipboard and pasted it. I don't know. It doesn't make any sense to me. I might look more and see if there's another one. So you have some useless Overmind information, and you don't know how to get to these. But there's even more. So it mentions this Terraforge thing, right? HP 10, so it has twice as much HP in the defense, and you only win if you destroy the final terminal. But this is called the dreaded Terraforge. So if these are the computer terminals, which one's the Terraforge? Or is the Terraforge something else? I don't know. I don't know where the Terraforge is. I don't know how to attack it. All I have is these 3 terminals. So why are you telling me this Terraforge thing and naming the thing after the Terraforge and giving me this whole thing about how we have to destroy the Terraforge and then have me destroy the terminals here? Is this whole thing a Terraforge? Even still, the HP doesn't make sense. It's just really bad setup. Kind of like Joan of Arc, the setup here can be really brutally wrong when it comes to what information it's telling you and what information it's showing you to use. It doesn't always match the components. It doesn't always make sense. And it really, really sucks. And it's in every facet of the game. So for instance, here, if we're doing this and this guy's shooting and this guy's shooting this guy. Now, does he have line of sight? Well, I don't know. I don't know because it doesn't actually say if characters block line of sight. For instance, let me find it. Okay, so right here on page 10, you have these keywords. Again, great symbol keywords. I'm glad they're here. Exists between 2 squares if a straight line can be drawn from a point anywhere in the first square to a point anywhere in the second square without crossing any wall or any square containing an obstacle. Well, what's an obstacle? It's not mentioned here, so we don't know exactly what an obstacle is. Let's try page 23 here. He has to take notes and write down what pages I need to look at. So if we go to page 3 here, we have board features. What's this? Terrain and models also block movement unless there is a gap to move through, such as a doorway or opening of a building. Some models and items may have exceptions to this rule and will state on their card. So models do block movement. Doesn't say anything about line of sight here, so maybe it doesn't. All right. I mean, you would think under measuring line of sight and terrain that you would know this. I mean, also it sucks that this information's here on board features and not under something like movement where you would know, hey, you can't move through people, but whatever. Okay. So that's fine. So they don't, obviously, right? Or it would have mentioned it, except this game never fails here. Let's look at Chief Petty Officer Jack Clemson's level 2 ability. Let's see right here. Get down. Can target alien models even if a hero is obscuring or obstructing line of sight. So, I don't know. You pick. Is it that the rulebook never saying it? Does this ability where it says that, does that make it a rule? I don't know. Nobody knows. Because maybe in some iteration it had it, but in this iteration it doesn't clearly even state if an enemy is blocked by line of sight from there. That fundamentally broken. That really sucks. Okay, so I've had a lot of negatives recently about this, and I really want to talk about this game in full when it comes to likes and dislikes and nitpicks and not, and fundamentally broken parts and parts that really, really work. One thing I will say is the theme through and through really works. From the art detail to the character models to the gameplay to the mission types to the humor. The humor is kind of all through there, and it just, the theme really works. If you want XCOM the board game, this is a really good version of it. I would argue probably even better than the XCOM board game. It's a great kind of, kind of funny, sarcastic, 80s driven sci-fi alien abduction, fighting kind of game. And it's really, really good. Additionally, it's actually quite strategic. There's a lot of thought about, where you position this guy to kind of get a good line of sight, especially if he has an Overwatch. And if he does have an Overwatch, I might have a decoy that I can pop it so that he doesn't shoot at anything and then move my person freely in there. There's a lot of strategy around where you're placing, whether it's defense or near hazards, whether you're going against or trying to get Spanner tokens for loot or what have you. There's actually really good strategy here. Like I mentioned, again, keeping kind of the buffer person nearby so she can buff everybody, to the healer nearby, somebody who's going to be attacking. There's a lot of that kind of stuff. In fact, even turn order really matters because, again, you might need to set somebody up before another person moves through, or you might want to, again, have this come here, block his line of sight, and now I can scurry all these guys over. You won't even see them. They'll still be blip tokens. There's a lot of stuff you can do around that, and so that's really, really fun. I already mentioned the content. You get 30 missions with multiple playthroughs easily done because of the branching story path. You get the conquest mode where you can go through the map and just kind of get the resources that way and play a typical game over and over again. The amount of aliens is actually quite nice considering they all play differently. The amount of heroes, they all act differently, so you can swap what hero you're playing and kind of get a different feel for it. That's, again, really good. Additionally, the long-term growth of both I really like. So the long-term growth for heroes is their base. And the base, again, like I said, you especially appreciate it once you finally are able to use multiple rooms and upgrade your items and level up your characters and do all of that. Then the aliens, again, I mentioned this is, again, really good. Getting, customizing my army the way I want, a lot of fun. So that one's really good too. Okay, so final thoughts here to wrap things up. This is a flawed good game. It is the best game Archon has ever made. It is the only game by Archon so far that I have had the desire to continue to play even after I played enough for my review. I actually really enjoy this. So does my wife. We play a lot of this 2-player. And again, it's actually quite fun. Yes, there's some quirks. You're going to probably have to house rule, do the buck line of sight. I don't know, pick it, whatever makes sense to you, I guess. There's a lot of quirkiness when it comes to the scale or, the kind of lackluster production quality of the tokens. But in the end, it's fun to play. It's fun to roll the dice. It's fun to use your abilities. It's great to have your sniper dude just, blow up a car and, kill a whole bunch of grays. It's just enjoyable to play the game. So, yes, it has some issues. Yes, it has some fantastic points. It has some of the best miniatures in any board game. It has the best storage you're going to get from pretty much any board game, especially at default and at the price. But then again, you get kind of some lackluster rules. You get all of that. And there's more to it. I didn't even mention kind of the card combat here and how this works, or how you can upgrade here long term and how that works. There's a lot here about upgrading items and doing all that stuff. It's actually a pretty decent and hefty game that we actually really enjoy in spite of its blemishes. But don't pretend this doesn't have blemishes. It definitely does. And if they're deal breakers, I can understand that. Anyway, that's it for my review. Again, be on the lookout for a review of Oathsworn very soon here. That should be happening within the next few weeks. So I hope you're excited about that. There's going to be some more Oathsworn content coming up. Again, as always, a huge thank you to my patrons. Without you guys, I would not be here doing what I'm doing 2 days out of the week, releasing these videos for you guys to watch, trying to make sure that you guys understand exactly what it is you're backing and what it is you're getting. Thanks so much for watching as always. And if you were looking for a number, 9 out of 10 or anything like that, good luck. I'm not going to do it. What I will say is I do give this 72 honeybees out of a possible 5 Pooh Bears.